In this final lesson for Module 3, we're going to be setting up what I think is the most difficult enabling condition in our example questionnaire. What we're going to need to do is combine a LinQ expression with a system-generated variable. This is going to be to make sure that Module K functions correctly. Now, Module K is essentially a consolidation of a sub-roster from its previous module. So let's first of all take a look at a diagram of the problem we're trying to solve, and then we'll jump into how to do it. So thinking back to Module J, where we had a roster for all of our different parcels, and then a sub-roster for all of the different crops which were grown on them. You can see in this example that carrots were grown in parcel 1 and parcel 2. Leeks were grown in parcel 1 and parcel 3. What we want to accomplish in Module K is to have one roster row about carrots and ask all the relevant questions about carrots across the whole farm. The same for beetroots, leeks, but for potatoes, we haven't grown potatoes on any plots, so we don't want to ask this row in the roster. So now that we understand how we want Module K to function, let's take a look in the designer at how we're going to make it work. So what I've gone ahead and done for Module K is to set up a fixed roster. Now you can see over here, the fixed set of items in my roster are all the crops and the same codes that were used back in the previous roster. It's really important if you want to set up something like this that you use the same codes and the same value labels, otherwise it won't work correctly. Let's go back to Module J to have a look at what I want to accomplish here. So I want my LinQ expression to search back through this roster here, J1, and see if any times in question J1, long grain red has been selected. If it has, then we'll enable this roster row in our roster K. So the code I'm going to write to make this happen, I'm going to go to the roster K and then its enabling condition. First of all, my roster name is J_1. And I'm going to use the operator any to see if any time that each crop has been selected. Open parentheses. I'm going to look through the question J1 to see if it ever contains my current row code in this roster, roster K. Let's see how this works. So in Module J, I've set up two plots. Now for plot 1, let's say that I grow long grain red, long grain white, and some carrots. Now in parcel 2, let's say I grow beetroot and carrots again. So in Module K, I'm going to expect to see roster rows enabled for long grain red, long grain white, carrots, and beetroot. Great, this seems to be operating correctly. We have the rows enabled as we would expect. That's all for this lesson, and in fact that's all for Module 3. At this point in the course, we've now set up our example questionnaire with all of our questions and rosters. That was our work from Module 2. And now, after Module 3, we've set up all the enabling conditions to make this questionnaire work properly. So in future, when you're working with enabling conditions, remember, first of all, to think logically about the problem you're trying to solve. Try to decide what it is you want to do with your enabling condition. Next, when you're writing them, you may have a little case of trial and error as you work through some of the compilation errors. And finally, and most importantly, test. You should never consider your enabling condition to be complete until you've verified that it's working by testing it on your tablet or your PC. So join us next module, and we're going to be looking through validations. These are similar language to the skip patterns, so we won't have to learn any new operators or anything like this. But what they do is make sure that the values entered at each question is entered correctly.